The Dred Scott decision. Dred Scott was a slave born in Virginia. He was sold a couple of times and ultimately ended up in the hands of a man named John Emerson. Emerson was an army surgeon at the time. After working many years with the Emersons in Virginia, John Emerson took Dred Scott to the free state of Illinois for military duty. They traveled to Fort Armstrong for 3 whole years until the fort got abandoned. After that fort was abandoned, they were transferred to Fort Snelling. This took place in the year 1836. When Dred Scott was at Fort Snelling working for John Emerson, he met a young girl of the name Harriet Robinson. Even though she was 15 years younger than Dred Scott, they fell in love, and later, around 1836, they got married. Robinson's ownership was transferred to John Emerson, and they were able to be together. During the time Dred Scott was in Fort Snelling and Fort Armstrong, he was in a slave-free territory. In 1846, John Emerson was transferred for the last time to Florida to assist in the Seminole Indian War. During this time, Emerson sent Dred Scott and his wife and daughter to St. Louis to work for other people, and the Emersons could collect their wages. Then suddenly it happened. John Emerson died, and after not writing nothing about Dred Scott or his wife and family, Irene Emerson, John Emerson's wife, claimed both slaves as their property. After 3 growing years working for Mrs. Emerson, both Dred Scott and Harriet Robinson sued for their freedom, thus sparking the case Dred Scott versus Sanford.
The Dred Scott versus Sanford court case became really famous and made history. Dred Scott was an African American slave which challenged the Emerson family because he was being kept a slave. The first time Dred tried to take it to the courts, he lost. He was still being held as a slave, and then he launched a second trial, filing a lawsuit against John Sanford. Dred Scott knew he had rights and was in a free territory. He knew being in Missouri, he was a free man, but was not being treated like one. The Supreme Court were all white men. 7 of them were pro-slavery, and 5 came from slave-holding families. The court was trying to prove that what Dred Scott was doing was unconstitutional. Taney, the Chief Justice, was telling the court that Dred Scott was black and this meant he was not a citizen, so he had no right to sue. Chief Justice Taney and others convinced the Supreme Court that Dred Scott should not be granted his freedom. This led to many African Americans believing they had to do something because slavery was not coming to an end anytime soon. This helped spark the abolitionist movement.
I am going to talk about how the Dred Scott decision sparked the abolitionist movement. After the Dred Scott decision, the Northerners believed it was an act of war because it contradicted the ideals of freedom awarded by the states. The Dred Scott decision fueled abolitionist leaders to fight stronger and harder. The Dred Scott lost his case. Northerners felt that slavery will have no end. In order to end slavery, the abolitionist leaders had to fight harder, and many were doing so. This frustrated many Southerners because many slaves were already fleeing the South. Harriet Tubman was an influential person that led many enslaved families into freedom by using the Underground Railroad. With high hopes to end slavery, Tubman wanted slaves out of the South because the Dred Scott decision ruling led them to think slavery had no end. Another leader was William Lloyd Garrison. Lloyd Garrison published The Liberator, an anti-slavery newspaper. He was a resource to many slaves and free Africans, informing them about the Dred Scott case through his newspaper. Frederick Douglass was a big role in the abolitionist movement as well. His speech on the Dred Scott decision fueled many to speak out against injustice. The Dred Scott decision influenced leaders to fight harder, stronger, and as a union to end slavery. Dred Scott sparked the abolitionist movement to end slavery because it was ruling of the case was a message that slavery had no end.